Welcome back to the Who's Reality Cooking podcast. I'm here with Caitlin Taylor of the most current season, season 3 of Is It Cake? Caitlin, how are you today?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm great. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here, and we were chatting a little bit before we jumped on before we started recording. We were talking about mommy brain and lots of coffee, and hopefully we can show up for the listeners and be that little dose of caffeine without caffeine this afternoon. We've tried to schedule this quite a few times because you're so busy. And you had mentioned that you were working 72 hours one week. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so in addition to owning my own business, I also work full time at a catering company in Annapolis. So a couple weeks ago, we had what's called commissioning week, which is essentially the Naval Academy's graduation week. So we get all of the midshipmen who become, Marines, or they go into like the submarines division or all these different things. So we have what we call cover cakes, which are basically fondant covered cakes that look like the uniform, and then they get sculpted hats with covers on top. And I think I did 10 of those on top of like over 100 buttercream cakes, and I'm the only decorator.
That's
I
big.
worked 75 hours within 6 days. I also had two cakes for my business, and I also have a just now 2-year-old and an almost 7-year-old and husband. So as you can imagine, I had zero sleep that week. And now this week I have my son who just turned 2 on Monday. His birthday party is this weekend, so I have to be extra for that. So I'm making all sorts of things for that. So it's been a crazy time. Like June normally isn't this busy for me. Uh, Now it's like crazy. I don't even know what's happening.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad you're busy. I'm glad you have all this business. I have to ask, what kind of cake are you making for your kiddo's birthday?
So last year we had a Bluey theme because he loves Bluey, which is great because I love Bluey. So last year I made him a bingo cake, like a sculpted bingo. And this year we're doing Winnie the Pooh, because he loves Winnie the Pooh. So I'm gonna do a small sculpted cake of Winnie the Pooh with the honey jar stuck on his face, and then I'm making like dipped. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen they're like a newish thing. It's the pretzel rods that have the caramel wrapped around them, and then they're dipped in chocolate, so they
Oh,
kind of look spirally. I'm gonna
yeah.
make Tigger tail of those, and then Rice Krispie treats with like little bees and honeycombs, and then I'm doing cake pops that look like honey pots. I got those little like sticks with the honeycomb thing on the top to put as the
Yeah.
cake pop stick. So I'm gonna do those, and then I made mini cupcakes that I'm deciding whether to make toppers for or just like pipe them like Pooh's face. We'll see. I'm very extra. You'll learn this about me.
I love it. Yeah, for me, I'm like, let's go to the Cheesecake Factory and you can pick out a slice of something. I'm
No, it's
awful.
hard because I have an older son and he's always gotten over the top sculpted cakes because I always get to just take whatever scene he's into and do whatever I want. So it's like equal. I get to challenge myself, make something cool for him, but then also content, because everything is content these days.
That's
So,
right.
so for Lachlan, I'm like, man, I can't. I was saying, I'm like, oh, I could just do something simple. He's only 2, but then I'm like, yeah, but my oldest son got a sculpted standing Coco guitar for his second birthday, so I kind of can't do that.
Gotta be fair.
I'm like, well, for HS's fourth birthday, it was during COVID, and I made him just like a Spider-Man mask, and it was kind of like 2D, just like rounded on the board. So I'm like, okay, so if I want to quote unquote half-ass it, I can't do that till his fourth birthday because then it has to be equal. So I have 2 more years before I can take a break.
Yeah, well, since you brought up COVID right before we got on the call here, I was going through your Instagram and I saw the Purell bottles that you had
Oh
made.
my gosh, yeah.
So cute. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so at the time I was working for Charm City Cakes, which is Duff Goldman's flagship store, and I was their lead cake artist. And when we closed for COVID, I didn't go back to work right away. I was working from home, so they had me making content from home. And so I was telling them, I'm like, oh, what if we did like Purell bottles since everybody's like freaking out about sanitizer? And I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. So I made sure it was okay, and like I was able to post it to my own stuff as well because it was my idea and everything. And they just like reposted it to theirs, but it was really funny. I think I did a toilet paper one also during COVID, and the coolest one I got to do for them though was Craftsman, the company. Because it was COVID, they couldn't have a large celebration, but it was their 100th year in business. And so I'm sure you'll see on my Instagram, but I did a big Craftsman toolbox just for content. Like they paid us for the cake, but it was just for the video for them to post. So
Right.
it was like a whole time lapse of me making it at home, and then the money shot, what like we call it. And they sent me, so they were only supposed to send me like a couple packs of tools to like put around it. They sent me so many packs of tools. I mean, I got like 10 packs of the 24 pack of screwdrivers, like 5 different tape measures, like a bunch of hammers. I'm still getting going through them in my garage, like opening new packs and stuff. I told my husband, I'm like, we should just like package these and send them to all of our dad friends for Father's Day.
Yeah.
We still have a bunch of them. It's so crazy.
Oh, wow, that's so fun.
It's
I love
wild.
seeing all of those really, fun cakes. And I think I had interviewed another gal. I think she was on season 1 or 2, and she's been doing all the different KitchenAids, like the mixer and I,
Yeah.
I want to say it was Dana. I'll
April,
have
I
to
think.
April.
Was it
Yes, that was
April?
it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it
I
was
saw
April.
her, she did a KitchenAid fridge and like the
Yes.
mixer and an oven. Yeah, she's nuts. She's so good.
She's so talented. And
She
I
likes my
lo-
stuff from time to time, and I'm just like, really? You like me?
I love it. I'm gonna have to send her like a little clip of this so she
Hi,
can enjoy
April. Love you.
that.
You're so talented.
I love that you guys all support each other. And I almost feel as though every time I speak to someone in the baking world, you guys all kind of know each other or know of each other. It's less like that when I speak to people in cooking competitions because there's just so many of
Yeah.
us and we're a little bit more competitive, I feel. You guys are a little bit more, lift each other up, which I love. But I have a question, and I almost always ask it, especially with people on Is It Cake? But when you got there and you got to set and you saw everyone you'd be competing against, did you know anyone or know of them? Had you worked with anybody? What was all of that like?
So when I when I landed, they picked a couple of us up in the same van. So I was in a van with Timmy and Grace when I first arrived. So we kind of got to know each other before we even got to the hotel. So we kind of like sussed each other out and like, we're talking and everything. And like I was super nervous because the other 2 shows I had been on, the first one was cool, but they picked up all of us up in the same van. So everybody was in the same van. So we were like kind of like, oh my God, this is our competition. Like this is the show right here. And like I still talk to those people every once in a while. But we've kind of like drifted apart. But anytime any of us does something, like right now, one of my castmates from Sugar Rush is on Summer Baking Championship, Chris. We're like cheering him on because my partner Sabrina was just on Spring Baking Championship. So it's like cool to see each other doing more things. But with Is It Cake, I'm like, man, I'm gonna see these people for like almost a month. We're gonna be together. So like hopefully we can all be friends because like that will really suck if we're not. But I didn't know anybody. I didn't recognize anybody. Once they started saying what shows they'd been on, I realized I'd seen quite a few of them before, but I wasn't like aware of them in like I was of Liz Merrick, for example. Like I follow Sugar Geek Show. I do their tutorials constantly. Like they're not I didn't know of them like that. Timmy I recognized, but I couldn't place where I'd seen him. And then I found out he's on like 13 shows, and I'm like, of course, you've probably been on TV. I can't tell you how many times. So it was really cool. And then like we all got to know each other, where we're from, what we're good at. We were showing each other pictures. And honestly, we always said from the beginning, like, this isn't a show like any other where it's really you versus the other person. It's really you versus the judges. It has nothing, no bearing on your cake, how someone else's cake looks. Because A, they're making a completely different object than you. And B, they have to fool the judges, not beat you out. The only time it comes down to really a competition is like flavor and just personal preference. Because somebody's cake could be equally as good as yours, and it could be like, oh, this person doesn't like pistachio. Oh, well, I picked pistachio. Guess I'm going home. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's really luck of the draw. So I think that really helped. But on top of that, it's very much I feel like collectively as an industry, we've all decided that, like, especially since our industry is predominantly female, like there's so much negativity with females and how like we're very competitive towards each other. And I feel like that's just like a bad narrative that's constantly been fed to us our whole lives, is that you need to compete with others. And I feel like as an industry, we've all decided like, you know what? No, collaboration over competition. You will catch more flies with honey. It's so much better to have a team of people who boost you up and you boost them up, because all it's going to do is help your customers. Because how much cooler is it when you can't take an order or something happens, God forbid you end up in the hospital or you can't complete an order, you can call up your friend who does cakes in your area and go, hey, totally can't finish this order. This is a really good client. Can you please take care of them for me? Absolutely, I can do that. If you were competing with that person, you'd probably be like, I don't know anyone else. Sorry, can't help you. And then you lose that client because they're like, what the? You can't, like, you can't do my order and you can't even refer me to somebody. Like, that's such a bad headspace to be in. And I truly believe, like, when you put out positivity, you gain it back. So, like, if you have that mindset, you're only going to get more positivity in your life. And it's so much better to have this team of people who understands you, understands what you're going through, understands like the business side of it, and that like the struggles that come with being a business owner. And it's better to have people to rely on in not just that, but just like day to day. Hey, I'm really struggling. I don't know how this chocolate, why is the chocolate not working? And then you can just text a bunch of people and they're like, I had that problem last week. This is what you do. It's so much better.
I love that. It's on my end, we're kind of gatekeepery. Like we don't want to give away our secrets. And I hope that the cooking competitions can, be inspired and take notice that these baking competitions are so much more positive, and they're definitely kicking the originals asses.
Yeah.
If you
It's
if
also
you'll
one
allow
of
me to
those
say so.
things where it's like, if you gatekeep, you're just you're making yourself look like a certain type of person. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
just kind of I for one don't like to be around that many people that gatekeep, because it's like, for what? You're one person. You can't take all the orders. You're not everywhere. Like, somebody in Washington that wants your technique on how you do this one thing, like, they're not going to come move to your city and do that same thing. Like, be realistic.
Exactly.
There's enough for everyone. Everybody's got a birthday. Everybody's got, a wedding or baby shower or whatever. Like, there's more than enough business to go around. And sometimes those people aren't for you.
Hmm.
Like, that's what people don't understand either, is like, not everybody's your customer. Not everybody's your ideal customer. You don't want everyone. When you speak to everyone, you speak to no one.
I love
So,
that. That's so wise. And I do hope that some of the chefs out there hear this, because there's so much positivity and knowledge to be gained when we break down that wall of gatekeeping and we just share and we're just
100%.
open and just completely share everything that we're doing. There can only be more knowledge. There can only be more growth. So
Yeah. And that's one
thank
thing
you.
some people have told me too, is like, you know, how cool is it that you know all this stuff? And it's like, yeah, but I'm still learning. Like, you don't understand. I am a forever student of YouTube University, first of all. Second of all, anybody that has classes, like for instance, Grace, one of my cast members, she has a class right now on Domestica, and it's a painting course. It was on sale the other week and it came across my Instagram feed, and I went, oh, that's so cool. Grace has a painting course, and I bought it. I mean, it was $8. I think it's normally like 25 or something like that. But I bought it and I was like, Grace, I just signed up for your painting course on Domestica. And she goes, girl, why? You know how to paint? And I'm like, yeah, but yeah, I don't know how to paint like you. Like, okay, I know how to paint, but I want to know how you do things because maybe there's an easier way or maybe there's a better technique for certain things. Like, and she's like, that's so cool, like that you would do that. I'm like, well, first of all, I want to support you. Like, I'm not gonna buy a cake from you. I can make my own cake. Like, this is an easy way to do that. And like, I am perfectly happy doing that because I would expect or at least hope that others would do that for me if I was to do something cool like that. So, that's just my little way of like putting into the universe what I want for myself as well. And that might sound a little selfish, but like I want to be the best that I can be, and I can only do that if I absorb all of the knowledge from everyone.
Yeah, yeah, that's so great. And I love that you just bought it. You didn't reach out to her and say, hey, can I attend for free or can you give me a discount? I mean, given if you can't afford it and you have a friend, I mean, that can be forgiven. But I love when people just see the value and say, I want
Yeah.
to support you, not just with likes and clicks, but also monetarily. And I think that's so great. And, you know, what a great example you are to not just
Thank you.
support on the social media side, but by purchasing the program. So
Oh, that
so
reminds me. Raina, plug, shameless plug. My girl Raina has a book that has just came out that she wrote. It's a memoir of her life and her struggles and everything. Y'all need to go get it because it's amazing. I don't want to spoof the name because I'm pretty sure I know the name, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I'll let you know at the
yeah.
end of this so you can plug it in here. But Raina has a book and I need to buy it. And I just remembered that I need to do that. So thanks for
All
that.
right. I'm going to make a quick note.
I'm pretty
Bring a
sure it's called
book.
Rated R.
Fun. All right. Well, we will definitely look it up and we'll keep on with our conversation, but I will add it to the show notes. So anybody who's like, wait, I'm in the car, don't worry,
Yeah,
we
and
will
if you
definitely
like
add a
what
link.
I said, you will love her and what she has to say because Raina Washington is one of the most genuine, down to earth, inspirational people I have ever met. Like, she was the mom of the group, and she would be like, it's okay, guys, we got this. Everybody's gonna do great today. And if it's your time, it's your time. And that doesn't hold any bearing on you as an artist. Like, she was great. Love
Oh,
Raina.
wow. What an amazing person to know. And we're gonna have to get her on the show so she can plug
Yeah,
that book
definitely.
too. I want to talk about the different cakes that you made on the show because they were absolutely amazing. And your first one was the dartboard. What was the inspiration behind that?
So I will show you really quick.
Oh, yay.
Please ignore the mess.
Oh,
But
no, no.
I have a dartboard hanging up in my basement. When my children go to sleep at night, after we've cleaned up dinner and everything, my husband and I will come down here and we'll play darts for like hours and turn music on and just hang out. And it's just one of those things we used to play in college at the local bar that we went to. And he ended up getting one because he had one at his family home in Scotland. And I mentioned to him the last time we went, I'm like, oh, we should totally get a dartboard for the basement when we finish the basement. And so he was like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So we did that. And now it's like a staple. Like, it's one of the things we love to do when we have friends over and everything. And the prompt for the first challenge was, something that reminds you of home, something that means something to you. Who are you as a person? This and that, and make whatever you want. And so my thought was like either a pool table or like a pool setup or a dartboard. And of course, during the Find That Cake, they had the pool table with the pool balls. And I was like, well, I can't do that. So I ended up doing the dartboard, which was really cool. But it was really annoying because obviously I didn't finish it. It's one of those things where like you get to set and you play Find That Cake and then you either are competing first or you're not. And so I almost didn't compete because I was the last to lock in my answer,
Oh.
which is why I was in the fourth station. But it's just one of those crazy things where like once they tell you go, you're like, oh, crap, this is actually happening. Like I'm really here. And it's happened at every show I've ever done. I've done 3 now, and every time, even though you're used to it, like you get panicked. It's reality sets in that you're really here. This is really happening. You need to put your game face on, but you're also flustered. And so, they didn't air it, and I'm probably not supposed to say this, but I don't care. I didn't finish my buttercream. My buttercream would not whip up. I lost almost 2 hours of work time because I could not get my buttercream to whip. I have made this Swiss meringue buttercream every day for the last 10 years. I know the recipe by heart. I know that the bowl needs to be clean of fat, and I was the first cook on set, so none of the equipment was dirty, and yet somehow my buttercream took 45 minutes to whip up when it takes 10.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sitting there like, oh my God, my meringue's not working. What am I going to do? And at this point, I didn't know off the top of my head what the recipe was for Liz Merrick's Easy Buttercream, or I believe they call it mock meringue. I think the Alexander Hawk calls it mock meringue, but it's essentially like a hybrid between like an American style because there's no meringue in it, but it whips up light like meringue, and it has more butter rather than making the meringue and then adding the butter. So had I known that, would have been fine. Didn't find that out, hindsight. But because of that, I couldn't stack my cake. Because I couldn't stack my cake, I couldn't ganache it and start decorating. So I lost time, which ultimately made me not finish it. And Jajar is sitting next to me going, why don't you just make American? That way you have something. And I'm like, yeah, but if it comes down to taste, they're going to hate it because it's going to be way too sweet. Like, I don't want to gamble that. And so I was like, it's fine. Like, I can do other things. So I eventually was like, it is what it is. We're just going to have to move double time, in the next section. It's fine. So it ended up finally coming together, put it all together, whatever. And because I lost that 2 hours, I didn't get to finish the outside ring. So it was like, if you go back and watch, you'll see when the cake wall spins, the side is ganache. There's no covering to it. And so we were standing there getting judged, and they're like, oh, it could be any of us. And I said, guys, I appreciate what you're trying to do. But if they don't pick me to be the bottom, I'd be mad for both of you because at least both of you have finished cakes.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I don't want to be in the bottom, that would be really messed up if I wasn't the bottom person. Like, there was a lot of backlash on season 2 for certain things that happened and didn't happen, and I didn't want to be that person of season 3. And I'm like, please pick me for the one person. I hate that I'm saying that, but I was like, it's not going to be fair that Timmy had an amazing rollerblade and Henderson had an immaculate thing that they just randomly picked off the cuff. Like, they didn't even know which one it was. They just hit a button. So like, that wouldn't have been fair. However, I say all that to say I did rebuild the structure, and I will be doing a new dartboard at home. I'm going to give myself the same amount of time, but I am going to redo it in the way that I wanted to do it. And it's a little bit different because it's not the structure on the base like it was on Is a Cake. I actually made it. Well, my husband made it, but we made it so that it can hang in that cabinet.
No, that is
so I'm going to
cool.
remake it, put it in the cabinet, and have him film me throwing a dart at the dartboard. And then I'm going to go up, and the dart's going to be edible. Like, it's going to be made of chocolate, and then also the dartboard will be edible, and then it'll be like Caitlin versus the dartboard episode 2, like, so it's going to be good, with all the time I don't have.
Yeah, I was going to say, when are you going to have time to do that?
I was supposed to do it right when the show first aired, but I got so busy with different stuff, because we also did, I don't know if you saw, but we also did a fundraiser, with our flavors from the show, and so I had a lot of orders for that, so I had to fill those as they came in, and it just time got away from me. But I will do it before season 4 airs.
Yes, definitely let me know, because I wanna put that up on the social media for the show as well and help you promote it. Not that I have anything like what you have on social media, but yet we will get there.
Yes, that's a good. Yes. That's a great way to say it. Yes.
We are a new show. This is the first season, so we only have we can only go up from here.
100%.
Something that you mentioned caught my ear though. You said that you got the 4th station because you were the last person to choose what was cake. This is new to me. So it goes in order of who guesses it first?
Yes. So, for instance, because Henderson locked the answer in first and he was correct, he got first spin. This is important because as we watch the show, not in the first episode, but typically everyone gets their own spin. So you get a new set of judges every episode. So, or every challenge, if you will. And so they're coming in only ever playing the show on their couch. When you're on your couch watching it and they show you the cakes before they reveal it, they zoom in way farther than where the judges are standing. So they're not realizing how much harder the show is in real life because they're so far away and they only get 20 seconds. And you're like, oh my God, what are we looking at? But so for instance, you're if you're in the first station and your strategy is, okay, modeling chocolate is kind of shiny, it's almost like eggshelly. If I spray this and make it super shiny and I dull all of my decoys, or at least two of the decoys, then they're probably going to think it's not that shiny because everyone assumes it's fondant. And 9 times out of 10, it's not even fondant. But people assume that. So they're like, I'm going to pick that one. And then they cut the cake and go, oh, it was the opposite. So now, with that knowledge going into spin 2, is the person that is on spin 2 had the same idea, they're automatically screwed. Because now they know, oh, it's not the shiny one.
Right.
Or, oh, it's not the matte one. So I know to pick, now there's only 2 shiny ones, so it's one of those. So you already going into it like kind of the short end of the stick. So if you're now 3 or 4, God knows you're an expert now. So now you're like, you really have to be good to like fool them.
Yeah.
And even then, that didn't even work for Henderson because they couldn't figure out what it was, and they just so happened to pick number 4.
They just did
and it was just luck of the draw. Yeah. So it kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like a strategy thing, but it's also like you want to guess it correct, but you also want to guess it quick.
Gotcha.
And even like I was confused at first. I'm like, why am I in 4th station? Because Mikey asked me first, what did you pick? And I said the beer stein, but I didn't realize even though he asked me first doesn't mean that I was the first to lock it in.
Right.
So when I went to 4th station, I'm like, what the hell? And they're like, you picked last. But you picked a different object than everyone else did, so he wanted to. And I'm like, man, I thought I was going to be 1st station. I felt so good, and then I was like, crap.
That is so interesting, kind of hearing the strategy. And I've interviewed several people, even winners, like Liz was on the show. That is new. Is there any other benefits to getting 1st station or 2nd station? Like, are they closer to the pantry, or is that just the main reason?
They are. It's hard because like, so station 4, the way they set it up was like station 4 was close to ovens and close to a reach-in. We were all kind of equal distance from the sink and from the chocolate fountain thing that they had, the tempering machine. Station 3 and 4 were closer to like the cabinets where it had the cake pans and the structures, like the structure tools, like the wires and molding tools and those things. Station 1 and 2 were closer to the cake wall and the which had like the reach-in that had like the butter and the eggs and whatever. I mean, it was less than like 15-20 yards, so it wasn't like crazy. Like it was pretty close together. Or feet, I mean, not yards, that'd be ridiculous. Running across football field. So like it wasn't too bad. But really like the genuine thing would be, you get to pick your object that you want to make. So like obviously not including episode 1 because that was already whatever you wanted to make. But like any of the other episodes, for instance, the jungle episode, my episode, I really was trying and hoping that I guessed it first because I wanted the snake. I was like, oh, I could mess up that snake. I could do such a good job. And then it was like a Venus flytrap log and an iguana. I'm like, what is this? This is nuts. First of all, Venus flytrap, absolutely not. Like I can't remember if they aired it or not, but Jujar for his flour sack, he actually covered the flour sack in pulled sugar, and it looked like the little jute, like fraying edges, but because it was so humid in the kitchen, all of it melted. It was gone by the time the judges saw it. So I'm looking at the Venus flytrap going, well, I'm not making that because we've seen how that works. Like the only way to do that is with sugar, and I don't trust it in here. And so I'm like, what even would be cake? The dirt underneath it? Like it's so skinny. Like why is that even a choice? It should have been a parrot. Yeah. Or like, or like a monkey or something. Like they all should have been something like that. Um, and then poor Kenny, the log. I'm like, it's a log. I can't make it look like it's a log. I don't know. It would have been easy, but also hard because like the texture and like I just knew I could sculpt. So like the obvious choice for me was iguana, and it was also like that's a big challenge, and like I don't think I'm gonna win this challenge regardless. Like I know that's so bad. Like you need to have like, power, positivity, and everything, but I was so scared. I did not want to compete against those two. And so then Timmy's like I said in my interview, like I got in there and they're like, so how you feeling? And he's like, I'm going home. Like, why? And he's like,
Oh,
because it's a log. It's a log. Like, I'm going home, it's a log. And I
oh
was
my
like, good poor
gosh.
log. And he killed it. He
He
knocked it
killed
out of
it.
the park.
Yeah.
I was standing next to him those whole 10 hours or however long we had. Can't even remember at this point. It was a fever dream. But I'm watching him texture this thing with all these like royal icing and wafer paper and all this stuff. And I'm like, what? How are you doing that? Like, that looks so good. I was watching him painting it, going, that's not the cake. And that's no exaggeration. Like, I was
Yeah.
right there and I didn't even know which one it was. Iguana. And I'm going, this is the best cake. I'm like, I can't believe I made this.
It
I
was
don't,
beautiful.
I must have hallucinated because there's no way. Like, Henderson came over and he goes, that looks so ridiculous. And I was just like, was I here the whole time? Because I feel like I had an out of body experience. I don't know. I don't know. It
Oh
was
man.
wild.
Well, I think most people who do a show like this, they have that kind of out of body experience and or like blow themselves away with what they genuinely are capable of doing. Clearly, you didn't think you could, and you absolutely could because that iguana was
Yeah.
absolutely
And I
amazing.
also said, like, when they yell's cut and, like, they have to come and clean your station and stuff before you can, because then they give us, like, 10 minutes to place our cake where we want on which podium and make sure we're happy with the placement. And then they lock that in, and that's where it goes once they call the judges in and stuff. And so when I stopped, one of the culinary producers, Kim, I was like, that looks so good. And I'm not even like big headed about it. I genuinely cannot believe how much I made that look like the Geek Boy. Even if I do go home, I feel like this is my like magnum opus. Like, this is my like, if there was ever a cake to go home on, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
holy crap. And so she was like, no, for real. Like, this is crazy. And then at the wrap party at the end of the finale, Monica came up to me and she goes, I just want to give you a hug because your iguana was so good. And literally all of us were in the back watching the monitors like this when they when they guessed it because none of us knew which one it was. And I was like,
Wow.
that means so much to me. Like, I was like, she totally could have been blowing smoke up my ass, but like the fact that Monica, I was like, bow down to the queen. Like, what? You said that
Yeah.
about my cake? I was like, dude, I've made it.
Yeah, Monica is great. And for anyone listening going, wait, I don't remember Monica on the show, explain to all of us who Monica is.
So, Monica is the fantastic, amazing, so talented, one of the most amazing, talented cake artists that's part of the team that makes all of the cakes for Cake or Cash and all of the cakes for Find That Cake, like the armchair and the lamp and all that stuff. She's incredible. She was rooting us on the whole time. She was also available for all of us if we had questions on like how we wanted to build a structure for a certain cake or like a technique. She made herself available to us to like ask questions and pick her brain because they really wanted us to do our best and they wanted us to showcase how good at our art and our craft we were. So they didn't want anything to happen to where like we weren't set up for success, which was really great.
I love that. I love that. And she's so great. And I have interviewed her for the show, so I know who she is. And I can't wait for everyone to hear more about that back end. And it will likely come out before this episode, so you guys can listen and find out more from Monica. She answered this question for me, but I've asked everyone else, so I'm gonna ask you when you guys go, and I know the answer now, like it took a lot of questioning, but when you guys go into your confessionals and you're talking directly to the camera and what it's like for anybody listening or watching. They're asking you questions, and you're responding to the camera. But behind you is this stack of money with a clear cake stand on top. And I've asked everyone, is it cake? Like, I've been dying to
You know
know.
what? I don't know the answer to that. I was so like nervous going into all of those interviews just because like my journey was so emotional on the show that I was so focused on not crying that I didn't really know what was going on around me. I briefly saw it. I don't think it was cake. It could have been cake. I don't know. Everything is like you question everything when you're there. And
Yeah.
especially like for those who've seen the entire season of my season, like the freaking I'm not gonna say what it was, but like there are things in the final episode when they play Find That Cake where there were objects in the kitchen. Like there was no podium. It was like, okay, go find the cakes. And you're
Yeah.
just like, what
And they're
are we
running
gonna find
everywhere,
them?
opening everything.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I will say, I won't spoil it for people who haven't actually seen the full season. But what I will say is the final object that was cake, I figured it out before they cut it. I looked at my girls next to me and I said, "Oh my god, blank is cake." And they went, "No way." I'm like, "I swear to God, look at this one spot here. Tell me that's not cake." And then they cut it and we all went, like, that's crazy. I was like, "Oh my god, I know what it is." And they're like, "What?" And it's like one of those, like, "Aha, I got it."
Wow, that is amazing. I think I know what you're talking about, but we'll have to talk about that
Yeah,
after we're
we'll
done.
sidebar.
Little sidebar time, because I think I know what you're talking about, but I do know if the money is cake or not. And I will share with you, but anyone
Well,
else
let me
listening,
know.
sorry, you're gonna have to listen to Monica's interview. I'll tell you after we're
I'm
done.
gonna
But
listen to it anyway because I love her, but
and I asked everyone, every single person
that's a
from
good
Jared in
question.
season one,
That's
yeah,
a
and then
really good
even
question.
Liz. I was just like, maybe my brain just works differently. Like, I need to know. Who knows
Man,
what is
if
actually
it
cake?
was, not gonna lie, they got me. Because I would never have thought. I mean, for some, it seems like obvious. Like, why wouldn't it be? But it's
Yeah,
just not something I would have thought. I would have thought of. And I'm pretty good at like those. Like that's kind of my MO is like the tiny details that nobody would really recognize. Like I don't
yeah,
know. I can't remember if they aired it or not, but on the back ear of my Dracula when it was the head to head challenge, I was like, I need to put every single detail into this thing so that if it comes down to details, they don't send me home. And there was a little, because it was a prop mask, there was a little tag behind it in the silicone that said made in Mexico. And I made that tiny little tag and I piped with royal icing in a tiny little bag. They're like, Caitlin, what are you doing from the gallery? And I'm like, I'm making a made in Mexico tag. They're like, huh? I was like, look, my head says made in Mexico. It's a detail. I'm putting it on. And they're like, you're so extra.
oh, I love that. I love
I had
that.
like the world, like literally the piping bag was the size of my nose. And I'm just like, it was so funny.
Oh man. And that Dracula head was amazing. Can you tell us more about it? What were the flavors? Did you have any inspiration behind it, or any specific goals outside of having the perfect tag, which I think is so extra and awesome.
So it was funny because so this is the one time, and it really stinks, but it was the one time that I was the first to guess the cake, or the not cake, when we played Find That Not Cake, because I knew I wanted the Dracula, and I knew first pick gets first pick. So I was like, okay, I have to lock this in right away. I know what it is. Boom, it's that. So then I was looking at all the cakes, and I'm like, all right, I don't want the skull because most likely I'm gonna have to mold it. And my strategy for the whole show was like, no matter how far I make it, I want to hand sculpt everything. I'm really good at sculpting. I want people to know that that's what I'm good at. I don't want to rely on molds. And so I knew that to make it look identical, I'd really have to mold that face. So I didn't want to do that. Also, the fabric around it, which ultimately ended up being the demise of Kristen, I knew I didn't want to do that because there's just not enough time. It's very humid in that kitchen. It's like things wouldn't have dried in time. No, thank you. Then I was looking at Frankenstein and I went, okay, like that could be easy. You know, he's kind of like misshapen. It doesn't need to be perfect, but that's a lot of green and that's color matching and I don't really feel too comfortable with it. I could be a backup, but we'll see. And then I saw the Wolfman and I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of texture. Little did I know I'd have to do the same thing the next episode. That was like, that's a lot of texture. I don't think I want to do that. That's going to be a lot of work. No thanks. So then the last thing was Dracula. And I'm like, well, he's super dynamic because he doesn't look necessarily like a person. He's humanoid. But the way it was sculpted, it had very specific features that you could really enhance and make your own, like the really deep jowl lines, and he had a huge nose and he had this weird chin, and I love sculpting ears. It's so weird, but I love to sculpt ears. So I was like, he's got cool ears. Like, he's got this big 5 head. Like, it's like the slicked hair. You could hide a lot because he had a lot of wrinkles. So I was like, okay, he could be cool. And like, there's not a lot of color matching because it was black, red, and like a gray, like a weird greenish gray. So I'm like, this could be cool. This could be easy. That's fine. We're going to go with that one. So I picked him. And then I already had like a list of flavor profiles going into the show that I wanted to kind of do, but just because like they're either my best sellers or they're flavors I really like or find interesting. And so I really wanted to do the pistachio cardamom cake with white chocolate ganache and blood orange buttercream. And I'm like, I can totally use this for this one because I love a pun. And I was just like, blood orange for Dracula? How much more perfect could that get? And then it was so cool because it was very monster-like on the inside. It was like that greenish, like gooey, like flavor, like look and color. And then it had the really bright pink of the blood orange buttercream, and the citrus and the cardamom pistachio just go so well together. So that works so well. And then modeling chocolate is flavored vanilla, like a white chocolate almost. So that added to it. So I'm like, okay, that even works better because if they take a chunk of it by accident, a lot of the time the judges don't know any better. Like, you're not really, you can eat the outside, but it's not part of the flavor profile. Which ultimately ended up happening. They're like, oh, there's too much chocolate and like white chocolate to cake. And I'm like, that's because you ate his hair, but that's fine. um, but it worked well together. So it wasn't like a really random flavor. Like, had I done like a lemon cake and it was like dark chocolate, that wouldn't have really went together. So yeah. I was trying to make it balanced, but also be interesting. And it looked so pretty when you cut into it. It was just like a pop of color. Because it was so gray and black on the outside. So that was part of the reason.
That was such a great cake. And then what I really wanted to ask, I have a lot of questions I want to ask, and clearly we're not going to get to all of them, but because I interviewed Timmy and now I have you here and you helped him on the finale bake.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, you know, how did you feel when he picked you, and what was it like working together? What was that experience like?
So, he told me before, because they were told like, oh, you get to pick somebody, whatever, and he was like, if we get to pick you know, before we knew that was going to be a thing, because they did it the season before and the season before that, we assumed that they would do it, but they didn't tell us anything. And so he's like, when I got eliminated, he said, like, if we can pick somebody, I'm probably going to try to get you if I can. Are you cool with that? And I was like, hell yeah. And part of me like didn't necessarily like want to hold him to that because I'm like, you know, things change. I don't want to like put, you know, pressure on him. But then when he did pick me, I was like, he almost made me cry. Really, I was like, wow, like that's a huge compliment. Because it's like you get eliminated, you know, you tell yourself all these stories in your head that maybe are true, maybe aren't true. But like for me, I was really down in the dumps. Like I knew that my cake was amazing, but it was also like, but it wasn't good enough. And like I had said that to the judges. They're like, oh, why are you so emotional? And they cut everything out. But I was just like, that's one of the best cakes I've ever made, and it wasn't good enough. And they're like, no. And I'm like, no, don't misunderstand me. Like, it's not that. It's not that. It's like, for this instant, it wasn't good enough because it didn't fool you. And so like that's a hard pill to swallow as an artist, that like you pour your heart into something and it comes out immaculate and you think it's beautiful and it's perfect, and it just wasn't good enough. And it's hard to like both things can be true, right? Like it's not black or white. Both things can be true, but like processing that and not living there was hard. And obviously I didn't want to go home. And they even said to Timmy when he fooled them, they're like, "How are you feeling?" And he's like, "Do you not see her like hysterically crying? Like she's like having a breakdown." Yeah, I'm excited. Like, what the hell? I'm not gonna say that, you know? And he's just like, obviously it's bittersweet. Like I don't want to go home, and I'm happy that I fooled them, but Caitlin deserves to be here, Like that Iguana was amazing.
Amazing.
And it's just the nature of the game, unfortunately. But it was really cool to like have him think so highly of me, to think that I'd be able to take him to the finish line, And we worked so well together. Like we were the dream team. It was great. It was like I had worked with him before. And that was the best thing we could have hoped for, because like when you haven't worked as a collaboration with someone before, especially in such a high stakes situation, it can go one of two ways. And fortunately it went a really, really good way. And he had said afterwards, he's like, "I just want to thank you because you took direction so well. You really helped. You anticipated what I needed. And even though we didn't win, like I loved working with you. And I just wanted to say thank you for all your effort." And that was so sweet. Like so sweet.
He is just such a great guy. Well, I do have to ask you because you said, "I don't want to go home." So I've spoken to people from now all 3 seasons, and for the first 2 seasons, nobody actually went home. They stayed there. Did you guys go home and then come back for the finale?
No, we did. So go home just means like you get
Right.
eliminated.
Right.
Obviously logistically we all live all over the country. 2 of them are in Canada, so like, and opposite sides of Canada, no less. So yeah, no, we had to go back to the hotel, and they just kind of like kept us separated until they brought us all back together as a surprise. But yeah, it was just like, man, it's over, like this is it, like bye. And what was really cool is originally they were gonna send me alone on the cake wall while I was like having a breakdown. And they're like, "Okay, Mikey, like she's gonna spin out and then you can keep going." And he's like, "You're gonna send her by herself?" "No." And he's like, "I'm going with her." And Mikey was so sweet. He's like, "She's not going by herself." And then they had that whole bit where I was like, "I'm afraid in the dark," which was so funny. But he did. He spun out with me. He gave me a huge hug. He's like, "Honestly, that cake was fucking amazing. I can't believe this game is so wacky in that way. Like, please don't take this to heart because like you're incredible." And he was so sweet. And it was really nice. It was really, really nice. And then the judge, Danielle, who was friends with Grace, she actually came by the room that I was in, because when you're eliminated, you're separated from the rest of the group because you have to go do your interview, and they don't really want you like talking to each other after that until they bring you all back together, because they want to keep things separate and they want to keep things a surprise and everything like that. And it's just like protocol. Danielle asked one of the handlers, like, "Can I go speak to her?" And they came in and they're like, "The judge, Danielle, would like to speak to you. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Of course." That's what? And she came in and gave me a huge hug, and she goes, "I just want to let you know, like, I'm so sorry we found your cake because like it was so good and this and that." And I asked her, I'm like, "Did you at least get to go up close and see how much detail was in it and like taste it?" They're like, "No." And I was like, they literally eliminated me. And then he's like, "Well, bye." I didn't get to see it at all because I was the only one that didn't fool them. So I was an automatic elimination. So they didn't even get to see it, unfortunately. So like, I think the crew got to at least eat it, and it didn't get thrown out. Like somebody ate it, but
yeah,
I was just like, man, especially because I told her, I was like, the other judge, the other female, who was like, that's fondant because it's all ripply. I'm like, first of all, there was not a stitch of fondant on that entire cake. It was all chocolate. She goes, "Oh my God, really?" I said, "Yeah." And the ripples she was talking about, if you actually got up close and saw it, those were deliberate veins because that's what an iguana looks like.
wow.
And she's like, "My God, that's ridiculous." And they all were talking to me when I was upset and this whole thing got cut out, but they were basically like, "Look, even though you're eliminated," they're like, "it doesn't even matter. Like, please don't stop because you're so talented. And they're like, I lost last comic standing and look at my career. Like,
Yeah.
we all lost competitions that we were on and we're doing just fine. You're gonna be just fine, I promise you. And it was so sweet of them because they could have been like, bye, bitch, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
they were all very sweet and like very reassuring and just kind of like, I know this sucks, be in the moment, but then move past it because it's not the end of the world, really.
And it's so true. And just for somebody who has competed and who is now interviewing everyone competing, it is very rare. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen because, like, Liz is amazing and I adore her, but it is very rare that somebody who wins really wins, if you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, it's the people who are eliminated third, like me, or, who are
Me
eliminated
too.
even first. Yeah, see, third group. But it's the people who put themselves out there
Yeah.
and, who maybe don't win, who end up having these huge careers, just to mirror that and to kind of segue into your amazing career now. Like I said, before we jumped on this call, I was going through your Instagram and there were so many things that stuck out to me. Like, I'm a huge amethyst freak, so the fact that you have a geode cake with amethyst on it, I'm
Oh,
like,
we
I
love a
wouldn't even be able
crystal
to
over here. We love a
just
crystal.
love it. If, like, I barely move the camera here, you'd be like, holy hell, woman. but
I love
um
that.
but I did also see on your Instagram that you are selling little cake boxes. Can you tell us about that and where we can order them if that's something that's possible?
Yeah, so on my website, which is www.thesculptedslice.com, you can go on there. It links to my Square site for local pickup. I might be switching that soon. I have to look into the legality of it, but I have shipped some taster boxes before to like family and different things. But essentially, it's a 6 flavor taster box for $50. You get 6 slices of cake. I say it serves two because it is quite a lot. Like when you look at the box, it's like I think it's like 5.5 by 9 or something like that size box. So it's a pretty decent size for slices. But yeah, you can pick any of I believe I have like 45 different flavor offerings. And I think I have it set up to be 3 to 5 days from ordering to pick up. So I offer that. I also still have listed the flavors from the show, which come in little acrylic cubes with my picture on it with the Is It Cake 3 logo and then a picture of and description of the cake itself on top. And those serve definitely two people. They're like, I think 3 by 3 or 2.9 by 2.9, something like that. So it's a lot of cake. Yeah. It's like 2 layers of cake and then the fillings and the topping on it. So yeah, it's really cool. I started doing that because of the fundraiser we did, and they've just become so popular that I've just left them on there because a lot of the times I have kids who want to play the game at home, and so they'll order all three, and then they'll watch the show, and then whenever the judges are eating cake, they'll eat that flavor.
I
Which
love
is kind of cool.
that.
Yeah, and I'm working on right now because I did 2 news interviews last week where I played as a cake. So I made little podiums and we did the whole thing. And I'm looking into potentially offering that as a package because I've had quite a few people ask for realistic cakes because their kid wants to play as a cake for their birthday. And so I might do some simple items and list it as you get the 3 podiums with the 1 cake and the 2 decoys, and then that be a package. So we're working on stuff. There's stuff in the works.
Oh, I love it so much. And can you give us your Instagram handle and any other social media handles that people can find you on and see what you're working on?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at the sculpted slice, which is the same. And my TikTok is sculpted slice also. So there you go.
Awesome.
Everything is at the sculpted slice. Also coming down the pike, hopefully in the next year, is gonna be a YouTube channel, possibly. I've had kids tell me that they want to take cake lessons from me and me to do tutorials and things. That might be a possibility in the future, again, with all the time that I don't have. It's also hard because, like, I'm a one-woman show. I say that. My husband helps a lot. He does. But as far as, like, day-to-day, I am the delivery driver, the janitor, the dishwasher, the baker, the decorator, the admin. Like, I'm doing all of the things. And I'm a mom of 2. one who's super young and attached at my hip. I have a full-time job. I'm hoping in the next 12 months to be able to go full-time, fully self-employed. So hopefully the momentum keeps going and that can be sustainable because I have a lot of ideas and not a lot of time to actually make them happen. So
Well, it's just been so much fun watching you on social media and watching you on the show. And thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to chat with all of us here. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Anything you wanted to plug? Any shout outs you wanted to give?
just want to say, hey, my cake fam. I love that Tui was on. I really hope you get more of my people on because they're all wonderful human beings and genuinely they all have such unique stories. And I think they would all make really great episodes. But also just like to all the aspiring cake artists out there, like I will say, I started when I was 16 years old, 15 years old, and I didn't have a backup plan. Not that I recommend that necessarily, but I never stopped and I always had a thirst for knowledge and I still do. And I will say that's probably the reason why I am as good as I am today is that it's not only my job, but it's my hobby. And if you find something you truly love, and if cake is what you truly love, don't let anyone make it into something that it's not. Like, always find a way to be happy with what you're doing. Always find the joy in what you're doing, as much as it can be frustrating at times, as much as it can be exhausting at times. Um, it is something that truly still brings me joy. And I always tell people, like, yes, I'm a trained pastry chef, but I'm an artist first that just chose the medium of food. And I feel like if you have that outlook on it, you'll never truly work a day in your life. I know that's so corny to say because people say it all the time, but it really is true. Like, I genuinely, like, look at me. I'm having a huge week at work and I'm still choosing to come home, not only talk about cake, but I'm doing all of these treats and this cake and these things for my son's party just purely because I want to. If that doesn't tell you I love what I do, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I completely get it. And there might be days that are, less optimal than others, but when you do something that you genuinely love, it's just you're so lucky, and you
I
feel
really
lucky
am.
and
I
I'm
really
really
truly am.
happy that you have that and I love that you shared it with all of us and that you had the gumption to go out there to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there. And I I still hate that you were eliminated over that amazing cake. I think it was just spectacular. Thank you for,
Thank you. I
being
do have one
vulnerable.
last thing to say, one
Oh,
last
yes.
shout out.
Yes.
Not that he may or may not be listening, but I got something that, and this kind of goes to show like the full circle moment that I had. And I'll try not to get teary eyed because it was pretty profound. But a little bit after the show aired, I got a letter from a young man in New Jersey, a 12-year-old, who found my address through my business and sent me a letter that basically said, I'm from Wayne, New Jersey. I'm a huge fan of the show. Thank you so much for how creative you are. Your cakes were amazing. I hope to be as good as you one day. I just wanted to tell you that I love you and I love your work. And I hope that, I can be as good as you one day. And I hope I get to meet you. And I stopped what I was doing. I came downstairs to my printer, created a postcard, laminated it, like literally put all three of my cakes, the Is a Cake logo, a screenshot of my headshot from the show, and then on the back I like watermarked me making the dartboard, like typed out his name, typed out a thank you, wrote him a whole thing, and mailed it immediately. Because I said to my husband, he's like, oh my God, you have fan mail? That's so funny. And I'm like, you know what though? Because I didn't say in the show, I am from New Jersey. That's where I grew up. I was born and raised there. I left at 18 to go to college. Nobody really knows that unless you know me. And so the fact that my first piece of fan mail came from a kid from New Jersey who also is an aspiring cake artist, is crazy to me. But also because I remember being of a similar age, sending fan mail to Duff.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm getting teary-eyed. The fact that some little kid who wants to do what I do thought that I am of the same level to send me fan mail, I've made it.
You've made it.
I have made it. I have inspired one person. I'm like, it gives me the chills when I talk about it because it's not something I ever thought I would achieve. And it's not something you typically think about because you're always like, what's next? Where can I go? What can I do? You have to celebrate the small victories, and that's like a monumental one for me. And I know it sounds so corny, but like his mom ended up messaging me a few days later on Instagram when she got, because I sent him stickers and stuff too of like my logo and whatnot. She found me on Instagram and she DM'd me and she's like, you have no idea. He freaked out when I can't believe you took the time to respond. Like everyone's acting as this huge celebrity. And I'm like, it's really not that serious. I'm not. I'm like, nobody. Please someday I'll get to that level, but like I'm not. I'm like Z-list. Like, let's be real here. But like the fact that I was able to not only get that, but then like thinking back and like the first thing I ever saw was Food Network Challenge, and then the second thing I saw was Ace of Cakes, and I said, like, even if I'm their dishwasher, I will work for them one day. And then moving to Maryland from Florida and just on a whim messaging them if they needed a decorator, and they just so happened to be replacing their lead decorator.
Wow.
Like, what are the odds? And then working my way up to be their lead decorator for several years. I got to make a cake with Jess and Duff before. That's insane.
I just got chills.
It's insane. Like, who am I?
And
they're like,
you're
you're Caitlin motherfucking Taylor. That's who you are. And I'm like, I guess. Okay. I'm not questioning it. Thank you. Thank you to the universe.
Yeah, you either manifested it or something, depending on what you believe.
I must be blessed and highly favored. That's all I got to say.
And I am so impressed and seriously still have got goosebumps from that.
But I had to slip that in there because that is just one thing that has come from all of this that I'm like, I must be doing something right.
You absolutely are. And I really hope that that kiddo hears this and knows that
right,
yes,
you're a real one.
Yeah. And that, you inspired him. You sent the card, you did all this, but for this kiddo to hear that it was just as important to you. It was just as monumental and as touching to you. I mean, that's beautiful. So if you're listening, I'm sure you don't want to, give out any of his personal information, but please know that as big of a moment as this was for you, getting this card from Caitlin, it was just as big of a moment for her getting your letter. So,
I really needed that too, because that made me feel like even though I got eliminated, it doesn't matter because I wanted to inspire people and I did it.
Yeah.
Achieved. Done. Next.
Yep. I'm so excited for you. You are such an inspiration and a ray of light and so much fun to watch. Do you have any other shows that you're working on, or can you name the other shows that you've worked on so we can watch you everywhere?
I am hoping, so my ultimate goal, Food Network, what's up? I want to be a judge really badly. I do want to compete more because I have the bugs. I'm sure you've been on shows, but like I have the bug and I have a ultimate goal to prove myself. Not that I need to, because like I know what I can do, but like that recognition is so addicting. I wonder if they have like a program for people on like competition reality shows, like like a AA type thing for like I'm addicted to competing. Like we need something like a support group. Like we should figure that out. Copyright Caitlin Taylor 2024. But no, the shows that I was on before, if you'd like to see them. I'm not sure the second one is available anymore, but it was, before Is It Cake, I did Cake-alikes, which was a competition on Food Network and Discovery Plus. They did take it down. I don't know if it's ever going to come back, unfortunately. But I do have photos. I made a life-size Kim Kardashian with my friend Veronica. And then previous to that, I was on the first show I was ever on, which is Sugar Rush Christmas. Season 1, episode 1, called Christmas Spirit. It's still streaming on Netflix if you want to go check that out. Baby Caitlin's on there. So that was fun.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah.
your Kim Kardashian, that's on your Instagram too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
guys can check that out right away, even if it's
And
not
humble
streaming.
brag, but Kim saw it and retweeted it. Went
No,
back
she
when Twitter was
didn't.
Twitter, and I was like, I'm so cool.
You are so cool. I have no
I'm
idea
like-
how I was so lucky to get you on the show.
I'm literally the giantest nerd. Like, it's not that serious, but I really appreciate it. Honestly, I had so much fun. This was so
No.
fun.
Well, Caitlin, thank you so much. I know you're so busy and you've given us so much insight to Is It Cake and shared so much of yourself here. Really, thank you. I can't wait to see what you will continue to do, what you'll be doing next, because I'm calling it here. You're going places. I can just tell.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone, please make sure to check out Caitlin's social media. We will make sure to put everything in the show notes as well as her website. And stay tuned to the next episode of Who's Reality Cooking. Bye.